Bible. If you would, while I'm gathering my stuff here, if you want to turn your Bibles to Deuteronomy chapter 31, I'll read some verses there to start off this morning. Deuteronomy chapter 31, starting at the beginning of the chapter. And Moses went and spake these words unto all Israel, and he said unto them, I am 120 years old this day. I can no more go out and come in. Also the Lord has said unto me, Thou shalt not go over this Jordan. The Lord thy God, he will go over before thee, and he will destroy these nations from before thee, and thou shalt possess them, and Joshua, he shall go over before thee, as the Lord hath said. And the Lord shall do unto them as he did to Sihon and to Og, kings of the Amorites, and unto the land of them whom he destroyed. And the Lord shall give them up before your face, that he may do unto them according unto all the commandments which I have commanded you. Be strong and of good courage, fear not, nor be afraid of them, for the Lord thy God, he it is that doth go with thee, he will not fail thee nor forsake thee. And Moses called unto Joshua, and said unto him in the sight of all Israel, Be strong and of good courage, for thou must go with this people unto the land which the Lord hath sworn unto their fathers to give them, and thou shalt cause them to inherit it. And the Lord said, He it is that doth go before thee, he will be with thee, he will not fail thee, neither forsake thee. Fear not, neither be dismayed. So Moses, as we read here, announced his retirement on his 120th birthday. He says he couldn't go in or out anymore. I'm not terribly surprised. 120 years old seems like a long time to be working. A little bit overdue for retirement, but that's what we got going on here. 120 years old. He's announcing to the people that he's no longer going to be their leader. He does tell them exactly what's going to happen. The Lord has already told them. He reiterates that they will have victory coming forward and that Joshua will be their leader. Moses also shares some wisdom here. First with the nation of Israel, and second with his successor Joshua in front of the nation of Israel. And Moses shared similar pieces of wisdom with each recipient here. In verse 6, speaking to the nation, Moses says, Be strong and of good courage, fear not, nor be afraid of them, speaking of the peoples, the armies that they will be coming into contact with. For the Lord thy God, he it is that doth go with thee, he will not fail thee, nor forsake thee. And then in verse 8, speaking to Joshua, Moses said, And the Lord, he it is that doth go before thee, he will be with thee, he will not fail thee, neither forsake thee, fear not, neither be dismayed. So Moses tells the nation first, he says, Fear not, the Lord will go with you. But in speaking to Joshua, also again in front of the nation, he takes it a step further, telling him, not just the Lord will go with you, but he says, And the Lord, he it is that doth go before thee. It is not only will he be walking beside you as you go into the land, he is already there. He has gone before you, he is already there. So this morning we're looking at the hymn, Each Step I Take. And it starts off, Each step I take, my Savior goes before me, which is directly relates to this passage here in Deuteronomy. It's easy for us to forget as people that God is not confined by time. It's easy to forget, of course, because we are completely confined by time. We cannot grasp the world, life without time. We just cannot grasp things without time attached to it. That's how we experience everything. There's nothing wrong with that. God gave us the confines of time as a way to live, and it's impossible for us to really divorce the concept of time from our understanding of all things. We try when we speak of eternity past, eternity present, eternity future, etc. But it's not really possible for us. So it's easy for us to forget this fact. We understand that God knows everything that will happen. But we rarely, it seems, think about the fact that God already exists in the future that we have not yet entered into. And this hymn is such an excellent reminder of an oft-forgotten truth. And I absolutely love that about it. There's not too many hymns that we sing that remind me of a truth that I don't think about terribly often. Now, a lot of times the songs we sing, they confirm to us. They confirm truths that we know very well and that we hold dear, and that's a wonderful thing as well. But this song, again, it kind of reminds us of a truth that we oftentimes don't think of, I feel like. Moses knew that the children of Israel were probably worried and possibly even terrified, even though he tells them that you're going to have victory, and God had already told them that they will inherit the land, and he told their parents and further back the generations that they would inherit this land. They were still scared. And it's easy for us in 2022 to look back on all the people in the Bible and find fault and say, well, why didn't they trust the Lord? God told them this is what's going to happen. But when for generations you've been enslaved, and then you've finally been brought out, and you're wandering around in the wilderness, and you see these fortified cities, and you say, well, yeah, we're going to take those. It'll be easy. Like, even though God has told you that it's going to happen, it's still, even if they fully believe it, I'm sure that they were scared. And so Moses takes this opportunity, his birthday / retirement here, takes this opportunity to remind them that God will give it to them, and that they need not fear in this situation. So they had a difficult road in front of them. They know that their leader, the only leader that they've ever known, the only leader that their parents and their grandparents have ever known, is not going to be there to guide them. God does this in our lives too. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to explain this is the way it is in my mind, but when we know that we have something difficult in front of us, when we can see the problem in front of us there, and where we have fear, we're worried because of this problem. And sometimes we take some comfort in the fact that we know what God used to tackle this problem in a previous time. And we take comfort not necessarily in the fact that God delivered us, but instead we take comfort in the means that God used to deliver us from the problem. I don't think I'm alone in that. Maybe I am. If I am, I'm just talking to myself. That's perfectly fine. But what does God do many times? He takes that away. He says, okay, like, you're taking comfort in this means to overcoming your problem. Well, this means is being taken away from you. And God, of course, doesn't do this to toy with us or anything like that. He does this as a way to grow our faith, to show us that the means, the object, whatever it may be, that is not the true cause. That is not what caused you to overcome the obstacle. The overcomer is what caused you to overcome the obstacle. But this is what Israel is looking at. They had faith in Moses because Moses had been their leader, and now Moses is being taken away from them right as they're about to get to the biggest obstacles that they face. So when we find out that whatever thing or method that helped us through the storm last time isn't available to us for this storm, and we get scared, this is the moment that we need the wisdom of Moses to remind ourselves that none of it matters because God is already there, walking before us. He it is that doth go before thee. He will be with thee. He will not fail thee, neither forsake thee. Fear not, neither be dismayed. Fear can be a crippling thing. Fear can cause you, even when you know that I have to go forward, and again, God is telling them, like, you will be victorious. It's not a question like, go forward, we'll see how it goes. God's telling them, like, it's going to happen. You will be victorious. This is your land. But again, they're still staring down, fortified cities, and they're a nomadic tribe. They're not the most highly trained military in the world or anything like that. Fear can cause us to stand still, or to even run away. And Moses is trying to encourage them to not be fearful, to not be crippled by the fear of what is in front of them, but to take comfort, be strong and of good courage, fear not, nor be afraid of them, for the Lord thy God. And that's the whole thing right there, right? For the Lord thy God. Nothing else before it really matters, nor be afraid of them. In this case, their fear was the enemy. I don't know what, is in front of each and every one of us here. Everyone has something in front of them, right? There's always something in our path. Maybe at some points in our lives, it's something on the smaller side. Sometimes it's something that we can't even see past. And this is where they were right now. But we have to get to the part of verse 6 here, for the Lord thy God. He it is that doth go with thee. And as we see in verse 8, he it is that doth go before thee. We can take comfort in the fact that not only will God go with us, I think we usually understand that, although sometimes we do forget that as well, because we're so occupied by the roadblock in front of us that we forget about the fact that God will be by our side. But we forget about the fact that God is already there on the other side of the storm as well. God has already gone before us, prepared the way, and he will be there when we get to the other side. Amen. So no matter the storm, God is already there ahead of us. When we encounter difficult times, it's easy to feel alone. And that's part of the fear. Think about the disciples on the Sea of Galilee, right? And Jesus was right there with them in the ship. But again, they got focused on the storm and they got terrified. Eventually they went to him, but that wasn't their first response. Their first response was fear, was terror. And we do the same thing. But not only is God with us in every storm, he's always been there. Yep. At times, in the hymn it says, at times I feel my faith begin to waver. When up ahead I see a chasm wide. So then I turn and look up to my Savior. I am strong when he is by my side. The imagery in this hymn of walking through life with Christ is beautiful and can and should be our reality. Christ is always there beside us, just like the disciples in the ship. But many times we have blinders on in life and we only see the problems, the difficulties ahead, and we never turn to see our Savior walking beside us. We don't have to experience this world the way that we often do, and that is in fear, a feeling of loneliness, perhaps. It's a choice that we make, a poor decision. The one who has already been there, the all-powerful one, is